Welcome, thrill seekers and lovers of the macabre, to another spine-chilling episode of Whispers Beyond the Bars. Tonight, we delve into the eerie corridors and shadowed cells of Pennsylvania's most haunted prisons. From the decaying walls of Eastern State Penitentiary to the forgotten halls of the old Allegheny Jail, these institutions are steeped in history and haunted by restless spirits. So, dim the lights, pull your blankets tight, and prepare to journey into the darkness. Eastern State Penitentiary, standing tall amid the urban sprawl of Philadelphia, is a fortress of crumbling stone and a relic of America's early experiment with justice and isolation. Opened in 1829, it was once considered the most advanced prison in the world, designed not to punish but to reform. The founders believed solitude would lead criminals to repentance. Each inmate lived alone, ate alone, and prayed alone, their faces hidden beneath hoods whenever they left their cells. It was a concept of silence and reflection, but what resulted was madness and despair. Over time, the penitentiary earned a darker reputation. The halls, stretching endlessly beneath vaulted ceilings, became echo chambers of suffering. Guards reported prisoners talking to the walls, hearing voices that weren't there. Many went insane from isolation. Whispers of abuse, punishment, and desperation seeped through the walls like moisture. The idea of spiritual reform gave way to horror. Today, Eastern State stands as a museum, preserved in a state of sustainable ruin. Its cell blocks remain cracked and decayed, but visitors still walk those same narrow corridors, feeling the heavy silence that never left. Many who enter describe an overwhelming sense of being watched. Tour guides tell of sudden drops in temperature, objects shifting slightly, and faint murmurs in the empty cells. Some guests have fled the building mid-tour, shaken by the feeling that something unseen had brushed past them. Among the countless reports of paranormal activity, a few places inside the penitentiary are especially notorious. Cell Block 12 is perhaps the most feared. Shadows flit across the walls when no one else is near, and echoing footsteps ring out from the upper levels long after the last visitor has left. In Cell Block 4, staff members have described hearing whispered conversations just beyond earshot. Lights flicker and grow dim, and the air grows unnaturally cold, as though the building itself still breathes. Then there's Cell 7 of Cell Block 8, the infamous cell once occupied by Al Capone. During his brief imprisonment in the late 1920s, Capone reportedly suffered nightmares and claimed to hear the voice of a man he de-ordered killed years before, crying out for revenge. Even now, long after his death, visitors say Capone's spirit lingers. Many have seen his silhouette well-dressed, head bowed sitting at the corner of the cell. Others hear faint jazz music drifting from nowhere, a ghostly echo of the gramophone he kept while imprisoned. Security guards who patrol the grounds after dark tell stories of doors slamming without cause and long-forgotten cell gates rattling violently. One described hearing the distinct clank of metal shackles dragging across the floor in a deserted corridor. Another reported seeing a man in an old-fashioned guard uniform pacing the observation tower, though no one has worn that uniform in decades. Perhaps the most chilling reports come from those who step into the central rotunda, the hub, where all cell blocks meet. Visitors often pause here, gripped by an unshakable dread. The acoustics of the circular chamber play tricks on the ears, distorting sound so that even a whisper from across the room feels as though it's right behind you. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplainable voices here, low and pleading, as if hundreds of lost souls are still begging for release. There's a heaviness that clings to the air inside Eastern State. The architecture, meant to inspire reflection, instead seems to trap emotion within its stone. The peeling paint, rusted bars, and echoing corridors all bear witness to years of suffering. Historians may speak of it as a milestone in criminal reform, but those who visit often leave with the same conclusion: it's more tomb than monument. Even skeptics admit that something about the penitentiary defies explanation. Cameras malfunction, batteries drain, and EVP recordings capture whispers that respond intelligently to questions. A faint knock here, a cold breath there every moment seems charged with unseen energy. The Western Penitentiary in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, stands as one of the most chilling relics of the state's penal history. Built in 1826, this imposing complex once held some of the most notorious criminals in the country. Its cold stone walls and iron-barred corridors were designed to enforce discipline, isolation, and reform, but what lingered behind those walls seems to have defied time itself. From the moment one steps inside the remnants of the old prison, a heavy silence takes hold. The air feels weighted, as though every breath carries traces of centuries-old despair. Guards, who once patrolled the dimly lit halls, often spoke of strange sounds echoing from empty cells, chains dragging across the floor, low moans drifting from the darkness, and the faint metallic clang of a cell door slamming shut when no one was near. Even the most hardened officers admitted that the prison seemed to come alive after midnight. The Western Penitentiary was infamous for its harsh conditions. Solitary confinement was common, and the punishment cells were nothing short of torturous damp, airless chambers deep beneath the main structure. Prisoners placed there often emerged, broken, muttering to themselves, claiming they could hear voices whispering through the walls. Many believed the voices belonged to the souls of those who never left, men driven to madness, execution, or despair within those very confines. Perhaps the most unsettling stories come from the execution chamber, a room forever tainted by the final gasps of those who met their end within its walls. Visitors who have entered the chamber describe an overwhelming sense of suffocation, as though unseen hands are pressing down upon their chest. Cold spots linger in the corners, and the faint scent of smoke and metal seems to hang in the air long after the room has been sealed off. Some say they can still hear the rhythmic hum of the generator that once powered the electric chair, a ghostly remnant of the prison's grim past. Paranormal investigators who have braved overnight stays within the penitentiary report consistent and eerie phenomena: temperature drops that defy explanation, EMF spikes without electrical sources, and sudden whispers captured on audio recordings. One investigator described hearing footsteps pacing steadily above her, even though the floor above had been sealed for decades. When she called out, the footsteps stopped, then began again, directly behind her. Legends claim that several spirits remain bound to the Western Penitentiary. His shadowy figure has been seen patrolling the corridors, keys jangling faintly as though he still keeps watch. Another tale tells of a prisoner who died in solitary confinement, his cries for mercy ignored by the warden. His voice, soft, pleading, and desperate, has been heard echoing through the old cell block during quiet hours. Even modern visitors who come merely to explore the abandoned grounds report feeling watched. Cameras malfunction without reason, batteries drain within minutes, and shadows flicker across the walls where no source of light exists. Some describe hearing the faint murmur of prayers, as if the spirits of former inmates still seek redemption from beyond the grave. Today, though the prison no longer houses the living, its presence still dominates the landscape. The stone towers, dark and weathered, seem to hold secrets too heavy to be forgotten. Locals say that when the wind blows off the Allegheny River just right, it carries with it the faint echoes of clanging bars and distant cries, reminders that some sentences never truly end. The old Allegheny Jail in Pittsburgh stands as one of the city's most haunting landmarks, a Gothic fortress of stone and shadow, echoing with the memories of those who never truly left. Built in 1886, this imposing structure once served as a place of confinement for some of the region's most dangerous criminals. Designed by architect Henry Hobson Richardson, its massive arches, dark corridors, and heavy ironwork gave it an appearance both majestic and menacing. Today, though no longer an active jail, its legacy of sorrow, violence, and mystery continues to haunt those who step inside. From the outside, the building seems frozen in time, a grim reminder of a darker chapter in Pittsburgh's history. But it's the inside where the true weight of its past presses down. The thick stone walls seem to hold sound differently, absorbing the faintest noise before releasing it again in ghostly echoes. Tour guides, historians, and paranormal investigators all report the same unnerving experiences: the dragging of chains across the floor, distant moans drifting through the halls, and the unmistakable clank of cell doors slamming shut when no one is near. The jail was once connected to the Allegheny County Courthouse by a narrow stone bridge, known grimly as the Bridge of Sighs. Prisoners would cross it after sentencing, their last glimpse of the outside world before descending into a place many described as worse than death. Some of those who crossed never left alive. Executions, suicides, and violent fights were not uncommon within the thick walls of the jail, and it said that the souls of those who met their end there still roam the corridors, reliving their last moments in endless repetition. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves the sound of footsteps echoing up and down the central hallway. Even when the building is empty, the sound of heavy boots can be heard pacing slowly, stopping suddenly as if someone or something has noticed they're being followed. Many visitors have described turning to find no one behind them, only the hollow chill of the air and a creeping sense of dread. Others have claimed to see full apparitions, shadowy figures standing in cell doorways, faces obscured, but their presence unmistakably human. Some are seen only for a moment before fading into the stone walls, as if swallowed by the very architecture that confined them in life. One chilling account comes from a maintenance worker who entered late one evening to check a power issue. As he walked past an old cell block, he noticed a man standing behind the bars, staring directly at him. The figure didn't move or speak. When the worker looked away for just a second, the figure vanished, leaving the air colder than before. Investigators who have brought equipment into the old Allegheny jail have recorded strange electronic voice, phenomenal murmurs, and single words like help, leave, and cold. EMF meters spike near certain cells, particularly those where prisoners are known to have died. One notorious cell, once home to a violent murderer, remains colder than the rest of the building, even in midsummer. Some say that it's not just the spirits of inmates who linger, but also those of guards who once patrolled these halls. Their duties may have ended long ago, but their presence still seems to command the space. On quiet nights, visitors claim to hear the faint jingle of keys, the steady rhythm of a patrol, and the faint bark of orders echoing from somewhere deep within the walls. Today, the old Allegheny jail serves as a reminder that even beautiful architecture can hide a legacy of despair. Its halls, though now empty, still pulse with unseen energy, a heavy silence punctuated by the echoes of the past. Those who leave often speak of an unshakable feeling that they were being watched, that unseen eyes followed them until the moment they stepped back into the daylight. The Cambria County Jail in Ebensburg, Pennsylvania, stands as a chilling monument to the darker side of history. Constructed in 1872 in the Gothic Revival style, its heavy stone walls and narrow arched windows give it the appearance of a fortress, designed as much to contain spirits as it was to imprison men. Though the iron bars have long rusted and the cells stand empty, whispers of the past continue to echo through its corridors. For those who dare to enter, the air carries more than the chill of age, it carries the weight of something unseen. The jail once served as the final stop for some of Pennsylvania's most violent criminals. It was a place of isolation, punishment, and, at times, despair. Within its walls, prisoners faced harsh conditions, often spending long months or years in cramped, unheated cells. The solitary confinement cells, located deep within the structure, were designed to break the spirit of even the strongest inmate. Many who spent time there claimed to hear things in the darkness, low murmurs, the scrape of footsteps in adjoining cells, and sometimes the sound of weeping that came from nowhere at all. Over the decades, the jail developed a reputation not just for its strict discipline but for its eerie atmosphere. Guards spoke of sudden temperature drops, as though an unseen presence had drifted past. Visitors have described hearing doors creak open on their own, locks turning without human hands, and faint knocking from within empty cells. Paranormal investigators who have spent nights inside the building describe feeling waves of cold air moving through sealed corridors, as though something invisible moves restlessly through the halls. The solitary confinement cells are said to be the heart of the haunting. When the lights are dimmed and the building grows silent, strange noises seem to come alive within those walls. Some claim to have heard voices whispering their names, or a rhythmic tapping that echoes like the heartbeat of the building itself. There are even accounts of unseen hands brushing against visitors' arms, followed by a sudden, bone-deep chill. It's as if the spirits of former inmates remain trapped in the isolation that once defined their existence, bound by guilt, madness, or unfinished business. But it's the execution chamber that leaves the strongest impression on those who visit. Though the exact number of executions carried out there is uncertain, the energy of the place is undeniable. The room feels heavy, the air thicker than in the rest of the jail. Those who enter often report a strange pressure in their chest or the sensation of being watched from the corners. A few have seen what they describe as a faint, human-shaped mist near the chamber's center, appearing for only seconds before fading into the darkness. Local legend tells of one prisoner whose execution went terribly wrong. As the story goes, the man's last words were a curse, promising that his soul would never leave the jail. Since then, strange events have been linked to that chamber, lights flickering without explanation, equipment batteries draining instantly, and faint anguished cries heard when the building falls silent. Even outside the execution chamber, the building seems alive after dark. Visitors walking the upper floors have reported hearing heavy footsteps behind them, only to turn and find nothing there. Others described seeing fleeting shadows that dart from cell to cell, as if former inmates still paced their confines, waiting for release. The March Chunk Prison in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, stands as a chilling reminder of the state's darker history, a place where punishment, despair, and death converged behind its cold stone walls. Built in 1869, the prison operated for more than a century before closing its doors in 1995. Today, it serves as a museum, but the echoes of its grim past have never truly faded. Visitors come to learn about history, yet many leave with something more, a lingering sense of unease, as though unseen eyes followed them from cell to cell. The prison gained notoriety in the late 19th century for its connection to the Molly Maguires, a group of Irish coal miners accused of violent uprisings against the harsh working conditions of the time. Several of them were tried, convicted, and executed here under circumstances that remain controversial to this day. Their trials were marked by questionable evidence, biased juries, and a deep divide between miners and mine owners. Many believe that the spirits of these men, angry, betrayed, and wronged, still haunt the prison, forever bound to the place of their unjust deaths. Walking through March Chunk Prison today feels like stepping into another era. The air is thick, cool, and heavy with the weight of history. The iron doors still bear rusted hinges, and the narrow corridors echo even the faintest footsteps. Visitors often describe the unnerving feeling of being watched, especially when standing alone in the dimly lit cell blocks. Some have reported the sudden clinking of chains, though no guards patrol the halls anymore. Others have heard low moans or muffled cries drifting from the direction of the gallows, sounds that seem to come from nowhere, and yet everywhere at once. The old gallows remained the most infamous sight within the prison. It was here that the condemned took their final steps, climbing the wooden stairs toward a noose that awaited them in silence. The structure has been carefully preserved, and though it stands still and lifeless now, many believe the energy of those last moments lingers. People who visit the gallows room often report a sudden drop in temperature, as if the air itself remembers the terror and despair of those executions. Some claim to hear the faint creak of the rope or the thud of footsteps approaching from behind, though the room is empty. One of the most unsettling accounts comes from a former tour guide who was locking up for the night. Alone in the prison, he swore he heard the unmistakable sound of chains dragging across the stone floor. Thinking perhaps a visitor had stayed behind, he went to investigate. What he found was nothing, only the echo of movement fading into the corridor. Yet, the air had turned icy cold, and he could feel something close, something that didn't want him there. Visitors touring the old cells sometimes see fleeting shadows in the corners of their vision, or the faint outline of a figure standing inside one of the empty cells, only to vanish when they look directly at it. Cold spots are common, even in the summer. And electronic equipment, especially cameras, often malfunctions in certain areas of the building. Paranormal investigators who have explored the site have captured recordings of disembodied voices and faint whispers that seem to respond to questions. In one chilling instance, a voice was heard on playback saying, "We didn't do it," believed to be a desperate echo from one of the accused, Molly Maguire's, still protesting his innocence. Huntingdon Prison, located in the heart of Huntingdon, Pennsylvania, stands as a foreboding reminder of 19th century penal architecture and the strict discipline that governed the lives of those held within its walls. Built in 1889, the prison was designed with high stone walls, narrow windows, and imposing guard towers meant to assert authority and prevent escape. Its austere design, coupled with a long history of housing some of the state's most challenging inmates, has made it a place steeped not only in historical significance, but also in chilling tales of paranormal activity. Over the years, staff, visitors, and paranormal investigators have reported a wide range of unsettling phenomena, from shadowy figures slipping through the corridors to unexplained noises and sudden drops in temperature, making Huntingdon Prison a hotspot for ghostly encounters. The old guard towers are among the most frequently reported areas of paranormal activity. Once manned by vigilant guards keeping watch over the prison grounds, these towers now stand silent, their sweeping views of the prison yard offering little hint of the presence said to linger there. Yet visitors often report the sensation of being watched, even when alone. Faint footsteps echo along the narrow stairways leading to the top of the towers, despite no one being there. Some have described seeing fleeting shadowy figures standing at the observation points, figures that vanish when approached or when one tries to focus on them. The sensation of cold, icy drafts descending the stairwells is another commonly reported phenomenon, sometimes accompanied by an eerie sense of pressure, as though unseen eyes are following every movement. The solitary confinement cells, another highly active area, have their own history of suffering and isolation. These cells, small and windowless, were designed to punish and reform through extreme isolation, and the psychological strain placed on inmates here was severe. Today, visitors describe a chilling atmosphere that seems to cling to the stone walls. Occasionally, the sound of a door slamming shut or a lock turning can be heard. Even though the cells are vacant and securely locked, shadows are also commonly reported in these cells, sometimes taking the form of figures pacing silently or sitting in the corners, vanishing when looked at directly. In addition to the guard towers and solitary cells, the prison as a whole has a reputation for unexplained noises and eerie sensations. Visitors often describe hearing the distant clatter of chains, echoes of footsteps on stone floors, and the faint murmur of voices without a visible source. The hallways, lined with cold stone walls and high ceilings, seem to amplify every sound, turning ordinary creaks and thuds into something far more sinister. Doors may open or close without explanation, and lights have been known to flicker in the old administrative offices and corridors. Some long-term staff members have also reported the unsettling feeling of being followed, only to find no one behind them. These reports create a sense of unease that lingers long after leaving the prison grounds. The combination of Huntingdon Prison as historical significance and the frequency of paranormal reports makes it a compelling destination for those interested in both history and the supernatural. Its architecture, designed to assert control and instill fear, now serves as a backdrop for encounters that blur the line between past and present. The echoes of the lives once confined here guards, prisoners, and staffs seem to have left a lasting imprint on the building itself. Objects sometimes appear to move slightly from their original positions, shadows flicker in peripheral vision, and unexplained cold spots continue to manifest, particularly in areas where the emotional energy of suffering and strict discipline was most concentrated. Paranormal investigators visiting Huntingdon Prison have documented some of these phenomena with audio and visual equipment, capturing cold readings, faint whispers, and anomalies in infrared cameras. While skeptics often attribute these experiences to imagination or the natural acoustics of an old stone building, many visitors insist that the intensity and consistency of the encounters point to something far more elusive. For those willing to explore the darkened corridors, climb the stairwells of the guard towers, or step inside the solitary confinement cells, Huntingdon Prison offers a chilling, immersive glimpse into the past. Despite its eerie reputation, the prison continues to operate as a historical landmark and point of interest, drawing both history enthusiasts and thrill seekers. Its high walls, narrow windows, and imposing presence make a striking impression even during daylight, yet the true weight of its atmosphere is most acutely felt after dark. The combination of history, architecture, and unexplained phenomena ensures that Huntingdon Prison remains not just a building of stone and steel, but a repository of stories, memories, and perhaps lingering spirits. Berks County Prison in Reading, Pennsylvania, has stood since 1862, a hulking monument of stone and steel that has witnessed more than a century and a half of confinement, punishment, and unspoken sorrow. Built during the turmoil of the Civil War era, the prison's design was intended to project authority and endurance. Thick limestone walls, narrow barred windows, and echoing corridors still carry the weight of thousands of lives who passed through them. To this day, even as much of it serves modern functions, Berks County Prison remains steeped in ghostly reputation and chilling tales of the supernatural. Those who have entered its older sections speak of a lingering heaviness in the air, as though time itself moves slower within the prison walls. The clang of distant cell doors, the hollow thud of boots against the concrete floors, and the unmistakable sound of dragging chains have been reported for decades. Guards, maintenance workers, and even visiting historians claim the sounds often echo when no one is nearby. Some say the activity peaks in the quiet hours before dawn, when the hallways are empty and the air hangs thick with the damp chill of the stone. The old kitchen is perhaps the most haunted part of the prison. Once a bustling hub of daily life, it was a place where inmates worked long hours preparing meals under strict supervision. Many of them were punished harshly for even minor mistakes, and tempers often flared among both guards and prisoners. Today, those who step into the kitchen at night have reported clattering pots, the faint hiss of boiling water, and shadowy movements at the corners of their vision. More than one visitor has sworn they saw a figure in a tattered uniform moving behind the stoves only for it to vanish the moment they turned their flashlight toward it. The laundry room, too, has a dark reputation. It was once an area of relentless labor, where inmates scrubbed and pressed uniforms late into the night. Some workers who have entered this part of the building after hours describe hearing the rhythmic squeak of old machines that haven't operated in decades. Others have claimed to feel icy drafts swirl around their ankles, as if someone unseen brushed past them. There are even accounts of disembodied whispers carried through the air, indistinct but urgent, echoing just loud enough to be heard, yet impossible to understand. Several former correctional officers have spoken about their unsettling experiences while making rounds. One officer recalled walking through the lower corridor when every light suddenly flickered, followed by the unmistakable sound of metal chains being dragged across the floor. Another reported seeing a dark figure standing in the corner near the laundry room door, tall and motionless, yet when he approached, the figure faded into the shadows. Cameras placed in the hallway have sometimes captured orbs and brief flashes of movement where none should exist. Some believe the restless energy in Berks County Prison is tied to the sheer number of deaths that occurred within its walls. Disease, violence, and despair were part of daily life for many inmates throughout its long history. Executions once took place nearby, and stories persist of prisoners who met their end unjustly or in agony. Their anguish, it seems, left an indelible mark on the structure. The prison's thick walls, as old staff often say, remember everything, even in the daylight. Visitors describe feeling watched. The sensation is strongest near the original cell block, where cold air clings to the stone and silence feels unnatural. Cameras and recording devices, brought by paranormal investigators, have occasionally captured faint, unexplained voices, short phrases like "help me" or "not done." Luzerne County Prison, in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, has long stood as a symbol of authority, discipline, and human suffering. Constructed in 1886, its stone walls and imposing towers were designed to intimidate, to contain, and to enforce the rules of a strict penal system. Over the decades, however, the prison has gained a reputation that extends beyond the realm of law and order. Numerous reports of ghostly apparitions, inexplicable sounds, and sudden cold spots suggest that the prison carries an enduring, unsettling energy. Visitors and staff often cite the old chapel and the solitary confinement cells as the most active and unnerving areas of the facility, where the echoes of the past are never far from the present. The old chapel, a somber space that once served as a place of reflection and religious observance for inmates, is particularly known for its paranormal activity. The high vaulted ceilings and long, narrow pews give the room an echoing quality that amplifies every sound, whether real or imagined. Staff and visitors alike have reported hearing whispers that seem to come from the corners of the room, even when no one else is present. Some describe the sensation of being watched as they sit in the pews, as if unseen eyes are following their movements. On certain nights, cold drafts sweep through the chapel, chilling those present despite the warmth of the surrounding hallways. Others have reported seeing shadowy figures moving across the space, always at the periphery of vision, vanishing when directly observed. The solitary confinement cells carry an even darker energy. These small, isolated chambers were once used to punish inmates with sensory deprivation and strict confinement. Today, their oppressive atmosphere remains, and visitors often feel an immediate sense of unease upon entering. Many recount hearing faint murmurs, distant footsteps, or the clanging of iron doors that should remain still. Some have claimed to see fleeting shadows or ghostly figures standing at the edge of the cell blocks, their presence both menacing and sorrowful. Cold spots in these areas are frequent, with sudden drops in temperature that leave skin prickling and breath visible even in otherwise warm conditions. The combination of the small, confined spaces, historical suffering, and lingering energy creates an environment that is almost palpably haunted. Beyond the chapel and solitary cells, the entire prison seems imbued with residual energy from its long history. Visitors have reported hearing unexplained noises echoing through the stone corridors, chains dragging, doors slamming, or the distant shuffle of feet along hallways that appear empty. Some claim to catch glimpses of figures moving between blocks, only for these apparitions to dissolve into thin air when approached. Others report feeling invisible presences brushing against them or standing just behind, a sensation that evokes both fear and the undeniable weight of history. The reports are not limited to the imagination of a few. Long-term staff describe recurring phenomena, noting that the most active times often occur at night, when the prison is quiet and shadows deepen in the corners. Some have recounted experiences that seem almost deliberate, objects slightly moved, doors left ajar, or the faint smell of smoke or candle wax without any identifiable source. The consistency of these accounts across decades suggests that the activity is tied to the prison itself, rather than the people within it. Paranormal investigators have also been drawn to Luzerne County Prison, equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and temperature sensors. They have captured anomalous readings, unexplained cold spots, movement in areas with no visible presence, and recordings of whispers that appear to originate from empty corridors. While skeptics might attribute some occurrences to the building SH or the acoustics of the stone walls, the sheer volume and similarity of reports from staff, visitors, and investigators alike create an undeniable pattern. The prison seems to hold on to the memories of those who endured its walls, as though the emotional residue of despair, fear, and isolation has left a permanent imprint. Visitors who step into Luzerne County Prison today are entering more than just a historical site. They are stepping into a place where the past refuses to remain buried. The chapel and solitary confinement cells serve as focal points for experiences that blend history with the paranormal. From the faint whispers in the chapel pews to the cold, oppressive air of the isolation cells, the prison communicates its history through sensations that cannot easily be explained. Even those who visit with skepticism often leave with an impression that something unseen remains behind the walls, watching, listening, and lingering. Northampton County Prison in Eastern Pennsylvania stands as a haunting relic of 19th century penal architecture. Built in 1861, the prison was designed to intimidate and control. Its stone walls rising high and its guard towers casting long shadows across the surrounding grounds. While it has long served as a site of incarceration and law enforcement, the prison has also become infamous for paranormal activity that seems to linger long after the last prisoner has departed. Over the years, visitors and staff alike have reported unsettling experiences. The sounds of chains dragging along stone floors, distant footsteps echoing through empty corridors, and the overwhelming sensation of being watched. Among the prison's many areas, the old guard towers and solitary confinement cells are often cited as the most active, places where the weight of history feels almost tangible. The guard towers, perched high above the prison yard, were once the eyes and ears of the institution, ensuring that prisoners remained under constant surveillance. Today, these towers carry a different kind of watchfulness. Visitors often report sudden chills that creep up their spines as they ascend the narrow stairways, and some have heard the unmistakable sound of boots striking wooden steps above or behind them, even when the towers are empty. Shadows sometimes flit past the narrow windows, darting across the stone floors, disappearing before they can be fully observed. Staff members describe an almost oppressive presence, a feeling that someone or something is still keeping vigil over the yard below. The guard towers, designed for oversight, have become a nexus of paranormal energy, amplifying the sense of unseen observation and lingering unrest. The solitary confinement cells of Northampton County Prison carry an even darker energy. These small, claustrophobic chambers were intended to isolate and punish inmates, a tool of psychological torment as much as physical confinement. Visitors who step inside often report an immediate sensation of dread, as though the oppressive energy of past prisoners has seeped into the walls. Many recount hearing faint whispers, the shuffling of feet, or the metallic clang of cell doors swinging open and shut on their own. Some have described seeing shadowy figures standing at the edge of the cells or moving silently along the narrow hallways. Cold spots are frequent and pronounced, with sudden drops in temperature that leave breath visible in the otherwise warm air. The sense of isolation, combined with the echoes of suffering, makes the solitary cells one of the most unsettling places in the prison. Beyond the towers and cells, the prison as a whole seems to retain the imprint of its past. Footsteps echo across empty hallways, doors creak and slam without human intervention, and visitors occasionally report the soft dragging of chains on stone floors. Staff and longtime visitors have described feeling a presence that follows them from room to room, a weight that is never seen but always felt. Some have even experienced fleeting visions of prisoners from long ago, apparitions that vanish when directly confronted, leaving only the cold, empty corridors behind. Paranormal investigators have visited Northampton County Prison repeatedly, documenting their findings with cameras, audio recorders, and temperature sensors. Many have captured anomalies, sudden drops in temperature in otherwise controlled environments, unexplained recordings of whispers, and occasional shadowy figures on video footage where no one should be present. While skeptics often attribute these occurrences to the prison's age, creaking infrastructure, or acoustics, the frequency and consistency of reports over decades suggests something more. The building itself seems to retain memory, as if the collective energy of those who lived and suffered within its walls has become part of the structure. Visitors to Northampton County Prison quickly realize that they are stepping into a place where history and the supernatural converge. Even those who arrive out of curiosity rather than fear cannot help but feel the weight of the prison's past pressing close. The guard towers and solitary confinement cells, in particular, offer experiences that are difficult to ignore. Cold drafts, whispers, and shadows seem almost deliberate, as though the prison itself is communicating the lingering pain and unrest that permeates its halls. For those who explore Northampton County Prison today, the sense of being observed is inescapable. Whether wandering through the narrow hallways, stepping into the oppressive solitary cells, or climbing the guard towers to survey the yard. Visitors often leave with the impression that the spirits of the past have not yet moved on. The stone walls, iron doors, and shadowed corners of the prison are not merely historical artifacts. They are vessels for memory and residual energy, echoing with the lives and suffering of those who came before. Monroe County Prison in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, is a formidable structure. Built in 1885 with thick stone walls and imposing iron bars that have contained inmates for well over a century, its long history of incarceration and strict discipline has left more than just physical marks. Many visitors and staff claim that the energy of past prisoners continues to linger, creating an unsettling atmosphere throughout the facility. Reports of ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and sudden drops in temperature are common, making Monroe County Prison a notable location for those interested in paranormal activity. Among the building's many areas, the old kitchen and the laundry room are considered the most active, places where lingering spirits appear to manifest more intensely, leaving visitors with experiences that are as eerie as they are unexplainable. The old kitchen, once the heart of the prison where meals were prepared for inmates and staff, carries a strange vitality even today. Visitors often report hearing the clatter of pots and pans, though the room remains empty. The scent of food, long since gone, sometimes wafts through the air, a ghostly reminder of days when the kitchen was bustling with activity. Shadows are frequently observed moving across the walls and floor, as if unseen hands are preparing meals or walking briskly between workstations. Some have claimed to see a full-bodied apparition of a cook, dressed in 19th century attire, moving silently along the counters before disappearing into thin air. The sensation of being watched is nearly constant, with chills crawling up the spine as visitors sense an unseen presence lingering near the ovens and preparation tables. Cold spots are frequent and abrupt, often forming without warning, intensifying the feeling that the kitchen is haunted, not just by residual energy, but by spirits actively interacting with the space. The laundry room, another historically vital part of the prison, also seems to be a hotspot for paranormal phenomena. Staff members and visitors alike report hearing the rhythmic thumping and spinning of old washing machines and irons, even though all modern equipment is turned off. Clothes sometimes appear slightly out of place, folded differently than they were left, or moved entirely from one table to another. Some have described seeing shadowy figures bending over tables, pressing garments, or walking across the room, vanishing when approached. The room is often colder than the rest of the building, even on warm days, and sudden drops in temperature are commonly experienced, leaving visible breath in the air. These inexplicable occurrences have been recorded over decades, suggesting that the laundry room retains memories of past labor and perhaps even the emotional residue of those who endured harsh conditions while performing repetitive work in isolation. Beyond the kitchen and laundry room, Monroe County Prison as a whole radiates an aura of unease. Long, narrow corridors echo with footsteps that seem to follow visitors as they walk, yet when they stop and look, no one is there. Cell doors creak and slam unexpectedly, often accompanied by faint whispers and muffled voices. Many have described seeing fleeting apparitions at the ends of hallways, indistinct shapes that vanish when approached, leaving only empty corridors behind. Cold spots are pervasive throughout the facility, occurring without any apparent source, while flickering lights add to the eerie atmosphere, making the shadows of the prison seem to shift and stretch in unnatural ways. Paranormal investigators who have explored Monroe County Prison have documented a wide range of phenomena. Audio recordings have captured unexplained voices, sometimes whispering unintelligible phrases or calling names. Temperature sensors detect sudden drops in specific areas, particularly in the kitchen, laundry room, and some cell blocks. Video footage occasionally reveals shadowy forms moving across hallways or standing silently in rooms where no one should be present. While skeptics attribute some of these experiences to the building's age, its creaking infrastructure, or environmental conditions, the sheer consistency and frequency of reports over decades point to something more. The structure itself seems to hold memory, preserving the echoes of its past inhabitants, in ways that defy simple explanation. For visitors who enter Monroe County Prison, the feeling of walking through history is inseparable from the feeling of being observed. The thick stone walls, iron bars, and dimly lit corridors are not just remnants of a bygone era. They are conduits for lingering spirits whose presence can be felt keenly in certain areas. The old kitchen and laundry room, in particular, offer experiences that are difficult to ignore. The sounds of phantom activity, the sudden cold spots, and the shifting shadows all contribute to the impression that the prison's past has not fully receded. The haunting of Monroe County Prison serves as a vivid reminder that some places retain more than just history. They preserve the emotions, suffering, and energy of those who pass through them. Visitors often leave with an unsettling awareness that they have been in the company of entities that are no longer alive but have not moved on. The stone walls, echoing corridors, and shadow-filled rooms act as vessels for this lingering presence. And anyone who ventures into the old kitchen or laundry room may feel the weight of that history pressing close. Schuylkill County Prison in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, stands as a towering example of Gothic architecture, its stone walls and iron-barred windows casting long shadows over the town. Built in 1871, the facility has a long and grim history, housing criminals, debtors, and those condemned by society. Over the decades, countless individuals passed through its cold halls, many never leaving alive. Today, the prison is remembered not only for its historical significance, but also for the eerie paranormal activity that has become legend among visitors and staff alike. Schuylkill County Prison is widely regarded as one of Pennsylvania's most haunted facilities, with numerous accounts of ghostly encounters, strange noises, and unexplained sensations reported throughout its expansive grounds. The old chapel, once a place of worship and reflection for inmates, is frequently cited as one of the prison's most active areas. Visitors often describe a heavy, almost suffocating atmosphere, as if unseen eyes are following their every movement. Faint whispers are sometimes heard drifting through the pews, echoing off the stone walls, though no one else is present. On more than one occasion, the organ, long silent, has been reported to play on its own, producing mournful chords that send shivers down the spine. Shadows are said to flit along the walls, sometimes forming the vague shape of inmates kneeling in prayer, vanishing when approached. The solitary confinement cells, dark and narrow, are another hotspot of paranormal activity. Designed to punish and isolate, these cells have long been associated with suffering, despair, and madness. Visitors and staff report sudden temperature drops as they enter the area, accompanied by a feeling of being watched or pressed upon by an invisible presence. Cell doors sometimes slam without explanation, and the dragging sound of chains is frequently heard, as if former prisoners are pacing the confined spaces in restless torment. Some have even claimed to see ghostly figures hunched in the corners, rocking back and forth in silent anguish. One former correctional officer recounted an unnerving encounter in the solitary wing. While performing a routine check, he noticed the air growing icy, his breath visible in the dim light. Suddenly, a cell door slammed shut with tremendous force, though no wind or mechanical failure could account for it. He reported hearing faint dragging noises along the corridor, echoing in rhythm, as if someone or something was pacing just out of sight. The oppressive sensation of being watched lingered for hours, leaving him unsettled long after his shift ended. Visitors exploring the prison today also share chilling stories. Many describe hearing disembodied voices, chains clanking, or doors creaking open and closed as they walk the hallways. Shadows at the edge of vision are a frequent occurrence, sometimes appearing as figures in period attire or hooded shapes, reminiscent of past inmates. Even the faintest echo of footsteps can create a sense of unease, as if the prison itself refuses to let go of its tragic history. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous anomalies within Schuylkill County Prison: temperature fluctuations, unexplained EMF spikes, and captured EVP's electronic voice phenomena suggest a presence that transcends time. In the chapel, recordings have captured whispers that seem to respond to questions. while in solitary confinement, faint moans and scratching noises appear on audio devices with no apparent source. These findings have led some to speculate that the energy of suffering and confinement may have left an imprint, causing residual hauntings that replay certain moments in time. Despite its dark reputation, Schuylkill County Prison continues to attract history enthusiasts, ghost hunters, and paranormal investigators. The combination of its Gothic design, historic significance, and consistent reports of supernatural activity make it a compelling destination for those intrigued by the macabre. Adams County Prison in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, stands as a silent sentinel over more than a century and a half of grim history. Constructed in 1851, it is one of the oldest continuously operating correctional facilities in the United States. Its stone walls and iron bars, a stark reminder of an era when punishment was harsh and mercy scarce. Over the decades, countless inmates have passed through its gates, many of whom endured harsh confinement, disease, and despair. Today, the prison is not only remembered for its historical significance, but also for the unsettling reports of paranormal activity that have become a hallmark of the site. Visitors and staff alike speak of ghostly apparitions, sudden cold spots, and the persistent sense of being watched, particularly in the prison's most notorious areas, the old guard towers and the solitary confinement cells. The old guard towers, perched high above the prison yard, were once places of vigilance, where officers kept watch over inmates below. Today, these towers are often described as eerie and oppressive, with a palpable sense of unease lingering in the air. Those who venture into the towers have reported sudden drops in temperature, as though invisible hands have turned on a cold wind, and faint whispers that seem to echo from nowhere. Some witnesses claim to see shadowy figures pacing along the walkways or leaning against the railings, disappearing when approached. The combination of height, isolation, and historical significance appears to have created a focal point for paranormal activity, where the weight of past events lingers heavily in the atmosphere. Equally unsettling are the solitary confinement cells, designed to punish and isolate inmates in small, dark rooms for extended periods. The psychological and physical toll of these cells left a deep imprint on many prisoners, and some believe that energy has remained long after the original occupants have passed. Visitors often describe a chilling sensation as they enter these cramped spaces, an almost tangible pressure that makes the hair on the back of their necks stand on end. Doors occasionally slam without warning, and faint, dragging sounds can be heard, as if invisible chains are being moved across the floors. Some claim to catch glimpses of ghostly figures crouched in corners, rocking slowly or pacing back and forth, replaying moments of anguish from the past. One former correctional officer recounted an incident in a solitary wing that left a lasting impression. While performing a routine check late at night, he felt an inexplicable chill enveloping the hallway. As he turned a corner, the heavy steel door of a cell swung open on its own, creaking loudly in the silence. He reported hearing faint footsteps and whispering, though no other person was present. The feeling of being watched persisted as he completed his rounds, a sensation so intense that he described it as though the weight of the past had pressed down upon him. Paranormal investigators have documented a variety of strange occurrences within Adams County Prison. Sudden electromagnetic field fluctuations, unexplained sounds captured on audio equipment, and inexplicable temperature drops have all been noted, particularly in the guard towers and solitary cells. Some recordings contain whispered voices or faint moans, suggesting that the suffering and confinement of past inmates may have left a lingering imprint, replaying moments of fear and despair for those who enter the prison today. Despite its dark reputation, Adams County Prison continues to attract history enthusiasts, ghost hunters, and curious visitors. The combination of its long history, imposing architecture, and frequent reports of supernatural activity makes it a compelling sight for those intrigued by the eerie and unexplained. Chester County Prison, located in Westchester, Pennsylvania, stands as a haunting reminder of the state's penal history. Built in 1851, its stone walls, iron bars, and imposing gates reflect the austere architecture of the mid-19th century. designed to instill order and control among the incarcerated. Over the decades, the prison has seen countless inmates pass through its halls, and with that long history comes a reputation for paranormal activity. Visitors, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike have reported eerie experiences, particularly in the old kitchen and laundry room, areas that seem to retain the echoes of the past. The old kitchen, once a bustling hub of activity, is among the most active areas reported by those exploring the prison. Today, the room is empty, yet many visitors describe hearing the clang of pots and pans, footsteps shuffling across the tiled floor, and faint whispers that seem to rise from the shadows. Some have reported seeing spectral figures moving between the work tables, often glimpsed from the corner of the eye. Long-term staff have spoken of sudden cold drafts, even during the warm months, and the sensation of being observed by unseen eyes. Paranormal investigators suggest that the kitchen, where so much daily labor and human interaction occurred, has absorbed the emotional energy of past inmates and workers, replaying moments of life, tension, and fatigue long after the prison's heyday. The laundry room, another site of high activity, carries its own spectral tales. Once filled with the sounds of water, scrubbing, and labor, it now stands silent, yet many report hearing the distant splash of water, the creak of heavy equipment, or the rhythmic beat of folding and sorting invisible laundry. Guests have described objects appearing to shift on their own, sometimes folding neatly as if handled by invisible hands. Others have sensed a sudden drop in temperature, accompanied by an oppressive feeling that they are not alone. The heavy stone walls, once a backdrop for the toil of prisoners and staff alike, seem to amplify the lingering energy, turning simple footsteps or creaks into experiences that chill and unsettle even the most skeptical observers. Beyond these primary areas, the prison as a whole has garnered attention for its ghostly phenomena. Visitors report hearing chains dragging along the corridors, distant footsteps echoing across empty halls, and doors opening or closing with no apparent cause. Some claim to catch glimpses of shadowy figures in the hallways, moving with purpose but vanishing when approached. The sensation of being watched is common, particularly in areas that saw high traffic or extreme conditions, such as confinement cells and storage rooms. Even the outdoor grounds are not exempt. Those walking the perimeter often feel the weight of unseen eyes, or hear whispers carried on the wind. The combination of historical significance and paranormal activity makes Chester County Prison a compelling destination for those interested in both the macabre and the historical. Its stone architecture, thick iron bars, and dimly lit hallways create an atmosphere that feels frozen in time. A place where past and present intersect in subtle and sometimes unsettling ways. The old kitchen and laundry room remain focal points for ghost hunters and curious visitors, offering tangible locations where the echoes of human labor and emotion continue to manifest in strange and inexplicable ways. Visitors often leave Chester County Prison with more than just historical knowledge. The experiences purported, from the clanging of spectral cookware to the sighting of fleeting shadows, create a vivid sense of connection to the past. While some attribute these occurrences to imagination or the natural acoustics of a large, empty stone structure, many cannot explain the intensity of the sensations they encounter. For those willing to explore the old kitchen and laundry room, the prison offers an eerie, immersive glimpse into a world that once was, and a haunting reminder that the past never truly leaves the walls it once occupied. Delaware County Prison, located in Media, Pennsylvania, is a structure steeped in over a century and a half of grim history. Built in 1851, its towering stone walls and iron-barred windows have housed countless inmates over the decades, many of whom endured harsh conditions, disease, and despair. Today, while the prison no longer operates in its original capacity, its reputation for paranormal activity continues to draw historians, thrill-seekers, and ghost hunters alike. Visitors and staff have long reported unexplained phenomena throughout the building, particularly in two areas said to be the epicenters of activity: the old chapel and the solitary confinement cells. The chapel, once a place where inmates attended religious services and sought solace, has become notorious for its ghostly presence. Many visitors describe a heavy, oppressive atmosphere the moment they enter, as though the air itself is laden with decades of sorrow and desperation. Faint whispers are often reported, sometimes resembling quiet murmurs of prayer or distant conversations that vanish as quickly as they appear. Shadows moving across the pews and altar have been captured on both video and photographic equipment, and some witnesses claim to have seen indistinct figures kneeling or pacing along the aisles. The temperature in the chapel frequently drops unexpectedly, creating icy pockets of air that seem out of place within the otherwise temperate space. Paranormal investigators suggest that the energy from the countless hours of emotional intensity and spiritual struggle has left a residual imprint, replaying moments from the past. Equally unsettling are the solitary confinement cells, small, claustrophobic rooms where inmates were isolated for punishment or observation. These cells are the focus of many of the prison's most frightening reports. Visitors have described hearing chains rattling, doors slamming, and footsteps echoing down the narrow corridors, despite the absence of anyone nearby. Cold spots are common, and a pervasive sense of unease often builds the longer someone remains inside or near the cells. One longtime staff member recounted an incident where he briefly turned his back in the hallway, only to feel a hand pressed gently on his shoulder, yet when he spun around, the corridor was empty. Audio and video investigations, conducted in both the chapel and solitary cells, have captured unexplained phenomena. Faint voices, chains dragging, and doors opening on their own have been recorded. Orbs of light and fleeting shadows are occasionally observed, moving in corners or along hallways. Many paranormal experts argue that the combination of the prison's age, the intensity of human emotion within its walls, and the confined spaces create an environment conducive to spiritual residuals or active entities. Despite its dark reputation, Delaware County Prison continues to draw visitors who are fascinated by its history and the possibility of supernatural encounters. Those who step into the chapel or wander the solitary confinement area often leave with a heightened awareness of the building's past, reporting chills, whispers, or fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures. The sense that the past has not entirely let go of this place lingers, creating an eerie, unforgettable experience. Franklin County Prison, located in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, is a historic structure dating back to 1860. Its imposing Gothic architecture, complete with stone walls, iron gates, and tall guard towers, stands as a testament to the stern penal practices of the 19th century. Over the decades, the prison has witnessed countless stories of hardship, punishment, and despair. Today, while much of the facility serves historical and administrative purposes, the site has earned a reputation for paranormal activity, drawing curious visitors, historians, and paranormal investigators eager to witness the lingering echoes of the past. Among the areas reported to be the most haunted are the old guard towers and the solitary confinement cells. The guard towers, once critical for surveillance, now serve as silent sentinels over the prison grounds. Visitors often describe a feeling of being watched even when alone, as though the eyes of long-departed guards or inmates linger in the shadows. Some have reported hearing faint footsteps ascending the spiral staircases, the clinking of keys, and low, distant murmurs that seem to echo from the walls themselves. Others have described sudden, unexplained chills when standing near the observation platforms, as if the cold air carries the weight of past vigilance and tension. The solitary confinement cells, narrow and claustrophobic, are among the most active sites in the prison. These small rooms, where inmates were once isolated for days or even weeks, are the source of numerous ghost stories. Visitors have reported hearing doors slam without cause, chains dragging along the floors, and faint groans that seem to originate from nowhere. Some claim to have glimpsed shadowy figures pacing inside the cells or standing silently in the corners, disappearing when approached. The atmosphere is described as oppressive, a lingering reminder of the suffering and isolation endured by those who were confined within these walls. Paranormal investigators suggest that the intense emotional energy trapped in the confined spaces, may manifest as residual activity, replaying moments of fear, anger, or despair. In addition to audible phenomena, many guests report visual anomalies. Shadows appear to shift unexpectedly in the periphery of vision, and objects occasionally seem out of place, as though moved by an unseen hand. Some long-term visitors and staff have spoken of feeling sudden pressure against their shoulders or backs, yet when they turn, no one is there. These unexplained occurrences contribute to the prison's reputation as one of Pennsylvania's most haunted historical sites. While Franklin County Prison is steeped in tales of paranormal activity, it also offers a window into the darker chapters of criminal justice history. The stories of ghostly apparitions, moving shadows, and inexplicable sounds add a chilling layer to the visitor experience, creating an environment where history and the supernatural intersect. Each stone wall, iron gate, and dimly lit corridor seems to hold echoes of the past, offering both intrigue and unease to those who explore the site. Visitors to Franklin County Prison are often struck by the intensity of the experience, particularly in the guard towers and solitary cells. Many leave with an acute awareness of the building's history, recounting encounters with cold spots, whispering voices, and fleeting shadows. Whether explained by residual energy, spiritual presence, or psychological suggestion, the prison's haunted reputation endures, making it a compelling destination for those fascinated by both history and the paranormal. Lancaster County Prison, standing stoically in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, has a history as cold and unyielding as the stone walls that make up its structure. Opened in 1851, the prison is a striking example of 19th-century architecture, with high, forbidding walls and iron-barred windows that hint at the grim realities of life behind them. Over the decades, it has housed countless inmates, some of whom left behind more than memories. They left traces of something unseen, something that continues to stir unease within the prison walls. Visitors to Lancaster County Prison have often reported a sense of oppressive energy as soon as they step through the heavy iron gates. It is said that some areas of the prison almost feel alive, resonating with the echoes of lives once lived in confinement. Among the most talked about locations are the old kitchen and the laundry room, spaces that, on the surface, seem mundane but are reputed to be hotbeds of paranormal activity. Staff and explorers alike have described these areas as being unbearably cold, even during the summer months, as if the temperature itself is resisting human presence. The old kitchen, with its rust-stained sinks and cracked tiles, is particularly notorious. Employees working in the prison have recounted hearing the clang of pots and pans being dropped or the sound of footsteps moving across the floor, though no one is present. Some claim to have glimpsed shadowy figures darting between the shelves or caught fleeting reflections of prisoners in the polished surfaces of the counters. There are even reports of voices, low murmurs that rise into whispers, then vanish, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. These phenomena have been consistent enough over the years that many staff members refuse to enter the kitchen alone after dark. The laundry room, similarly, is steeped in unsettling energy. The space is lined with large, old washers and dryers, remnants from decades past. Many who have ventured here describe feeling a sudden chill, as if icy fingers are brushing against their skin. Some have heard the unmistakable sounds of clothes being wrung out or fabric rustling, despite the machines being long since decommissioned. A few paranormal investigators have captured cold spots on their thermal cameras or audio recordings filled with incomprehensible whispers. It is here, more than anywhere else in the prison, that the sense of lingering spirits is most pronounced, as though the souls of former inmates remain trapped in a cycle of repetition, bound to the labor they endured during life. Eyewitness accounts of ghostly apparitions are not limited to these two areas. Many have reported seeing figures in outdated prison uniforms wandering the corridors or appearing at the end of dark hallways. These apparitions often vanish when approached, leaving only the hollow echo of footsteps behind. In some cases, visitors describe sudden feelings of dread, a visceral fear that seems to emanate from the walls themselves. Security personnel, have occasionally described hearing doors slam shut on their own, lights flickering for no reason, or the inexplicable sound of keys jangling in empty hallways. One particularly chilling story comes from a former inmate who returned years later as a volunteer. While inspecting a storage room, he claimed to have felt a heavy presence behind him. Turning quickly, he saw a gaunt figure in a worn uniform, its eyes hollow, its face twisted in silent agony. The figure did not move toward him, but simply stood there, watching. Moments later, it faded into the shadows, leaving the man shaken and unable to explain what he had witnessed. This encounter aligns with numerous reports of similar figures seen throughout the prison, silent, observing, and undeniably human in their suffering, yet ghostly in their form. Lancaster County Prison's history contributes significantly to its reputation for hauntings. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, the institution was known for its harsh conditions. Inmates endured grueling labor, inadequate nutrition, and strict disciplinary measures. Many were confined for minor offenses, while others faced extended sentences in overcrowded cells. Disease and despair were common, and records indicate that some prisoners died within the prison walls, often without proper recognition or ceremony. These circumstances, combined with the intensity of human suffering over more than a century, have created a lingering atmosphere that many believe is ripe for paranormal activity. Paranormal investigators who have explored Lancaster County Prison consistently report unusual occurrences. EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. Recordings often capture voices that cannot be attributed to any living person on site. Some claim to have photographed orbs of light hovering near old cell blocks or equipment, or even the transparent outlines of people walking in spaces that should be empty. Motion sensors have been triggered with no visible cause, and thermal cameras sometimes register cold anomalies in the hallways and rooms said to be most haunted. While skeptics argue that old buildings naturally produce such effects, the frequency and consistency of reports over the decades have convinced many that something otherworldly persists here. Staff working at the prison often share a sense of respect and caution toward these stories. While some dismiss them as superstition or imagination, others have had experiences that are difficult to rationalize. The shared consensus is that the prison carries an energy that cannot be ignored, a residual echo of the countless lives that pass through its walls, many of them filled with fear, pain, and despair. Even those who approach the subject with skepticism admit that the feeling of being watched, the sudden chills, and the unexplained sounds lend credence to the tales of haunting. Visitors who come to Lancaster County Prison in search of the paranormal are advised to tread carefully. The atmosphere is heavy, and even those who do not believe in ghosts often find themselves uneasy after spending time in the facility. Some leave convinced they have experienced something beyond explanation, while others claim only to feel a subtle shift in the air, a whisper of history that refuses to remain silent. Regardless of belief, the prison maintains its aura of mystery, its stone walls holding stories that refuse to die. In essence, Lancaster County Prison is more than just a historical building. It is a repository of human emotion and experience, preserved in the form of haunting echoes and spectral manifestations. The old kitchen, the laundry room, and the shadowed hallways serve as reminders of lives constrained, suffering endured, and a history that refuses to remain buried. Whether these phenomena are the product of restless spirits or the natural echoes of trauma and memory, they continue to capture the imagination and fear of all who enter. The prison stands as a monument to the past, a place where history and the supernatural converge, and where the living are reminded that some stories are never truly finished, they simply linger. In the cold, dark corners of Lancaster County Prison, Lehigh County Prison, looming in Allentown, Pennsylvania, has stood as a stark testament to Gothic architecture and the harsh realities of 19th century incarceration since its construction in 1871. Its tall, pointed arches and stone facades give it an imposing presence, casting long shadows over the surrounding streets and immediately evoking a sense of foreboding. Inside, the prison has seen generations of inmates, each leaving behind a mark of suffering and endurance. some of which appears to linger in the form of unexplained phenomena that continue to unsettle visitors and staff alike. One of the most frequently reported areas of paranormal activity is the Old Chapel, a high-ceilinged room once used for religious services. Though it has been closed to regular use for decades, those who venture inside speak of an eerie stillness, broken only by the occasional echo of voices or whispers. Some claim to hear the faint murmur of a congregation or the quiet hum of a hymn, even when no one is present. Shadows are said to shift along the walls, taking forms that vanish when approached, leaving nothing but the lingering sense of a presence just beyond perception. Paranormal investigators have noted sudden temperature drops in the chapel, with cold spots appearing in the middle of the room, as though invisible hands brush past anyone who dares to enter. A few have described feeling a pressing weight on their shoulders, as if unseen eyes are watching, judging, or perhaps replaying the anguish of those who once sat in the pews. The solitary confinement cells are another hotspot for unexplained activity. These small, windowless rooms, where prisoners were held for days or weeks at a time, resonate with the history of isolation and despair. Visitors report an almost tangible sense of oppression the moment they step inside, as if the walls themselves are closing in. Some have heard the distinct sound of chains dragging across the floor, or the echo of cell doors slamming shut behind them. Even when the doors have remained untouched, others describe hearing muffled cries or low moans that seem to come from the very walls, fading into silence when one tries to pinpoint their source. The combination of claustrophobic architecture and residual energy from years of confinement creates an atmosphere that is deeply unsettling and difficult to escape emotionally. Eyewitness accounts of ghostly figures are frequent throughout the prison. Some visitors report seeing shadowy inmates pacing in the corridors, appearing in old uniforms of the 19th century. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving only the sound of hurried footsteps or the creaking of the floorboards in their absence. In some cases, the apparitions appear near cell doors, lingering as if guarding the spaces where they once endured punishment or isolation. Staff have occasionally described hearing whispers calling their names or feeling a cold breath against the back of their necks while alone in the halls. Many agree that the sense of being watched is pervasive, never truly disappearing, and can provoke a deep, almost primal unease. The Gothic architecture itself seems to amplify these experiences. The high vaulted ceilings, narrow hallways, and heavy stone construction create natural echoes that can distort sounds, making a simple creak or groan seem otherworldly. Paranormal investigators using thermal cameras and audio equipment have often captured anomalies, sudden drops in temperature, orbs of light moving against the natural flow of air, an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, recordings that contain incomprehensible whispers and phrases. Many of these findings occur in the chapel and solitary cells, reinforcing their reputations as the prison's most haunted areas. Historical records of the prison add weight to these reports. Lehigh County Prison has a long history of overcrowding, harsh disciplinary measures, and disease outbreaks, conditions that would have caused immense suffering for its inmates. Many prisoners spent long periods in solitary confinement as punishment, enduring extreme isolation that could leave lasting psychological scars. Several inmates are known to have died within the prison, some from illness, others under violent circumstances. The combination of these events with the oppressive environment seems to have left a residual imprint, a kind of echo of past trauma that modern visitors occasionally feel or witness. Accounts from guards and former employees further support the prison's haunted reputation. Some report doors swinging open by themselves, lights flickering without cause, or the feeling of sudden, unexplained chills. One longtime staff member recounted walking past the chapel late one night when he felt the unmistakable sensation of someone standing right behind him. Turning quickly, he saw a shadowy figure in old-fashioned clothing standing in the doorway. Before he could react, it dissolved into the darkness, leaving him shaken and convinced that the building held more than mere memories. Stories like these are echoed by many who have spent time within the prison walls, painting a picture of a location steeped in lingering energy and restless spirits. Visitors who explore the prison today often describe a shift in mood upon entering, a heaviness that is difficult to articulate. Even those who do not believe in ghosts frequently report feeling watched or sensing an unseen presence. Investigators suggest that the combination of the prison's dark history, architectural design, and the documented emotional intensity of the space contributes to the perception of paranormal activity. Whether these sensations are the result of lingering spirits or the natural echoes of trauma, they remain compelling and sometimes terrifying experiences for anyone who steps inside. Lehigh County Prison stands as a monument to a troubled past, a Gothic edifice where history and the supernatural converge. The chapel and solitary confinement cells, in particular, serve as focal points for stories of ghostly encounters, unexplained sounds, and chilling sensations. From shadowy figures pacing the halls to disembodied whispers echoing in empty corridors, the experiences reported here suggest that the prison is far more than an architectural relic. It is a vessel of lingering memories, suffering, and perhaps restless souls. Visitors leave with more than just impressions of old stone and iron. They carry with them the palpable sense that the past, with all its pain and fear, still inhabits every corner of Lehigh County Prison. Luzerne County Prison, located in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, is a building that commands attention from the moment one approaches its heavy stone walls. Constructed in 1886, the prison was designed to be both functional and intimidating, with thick masonry and iron-barred windows that give it an unyielding presence. Over the decades, it has housed countless inmates, some of whom endured harsh conditions, isolation, and despair. The combination of suffering and history seems to have left an indelible mark on the structure, and many visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators have reported experiences that suggest the prison may be haunted. The old kitchen is widely regarded as one of the most active areas of the prison. Though no longer used for cooking, the space is filled with the remnants of its past rusted sinks, cracked tiles, and shelves that once held heavy pots and utensils. People who enter the kitchen often describe feeling an immediate chill, a sudden drop in temperature that seems to brush against their skin with icy fingers. Some have reported hearing the unmistakable clang of metal, as if pots and pans are being dropped or shifted, even though no one is present. Footsteps echo across the tiled floor, moving in patterns that suggest the presence of multiple people, yet the room remains empty. Shadowy figures have been glimpsed in the corners, often vanishing when approached, leaving only the eerie sense of being observed by unseen eyes. Investigators have recorded EVP, electronic voice phenomenon sessions in the kitchen, capturing whispers and murmurs that cannot be attributed to anyone present, lending further credence to claims of paranormal activity. The laundry room is another hotspot for unexplained phenomena. Rows of old, heavy washers and dryers, relics of decades past, line the space, their mechanical forms long since decommissioned. Visitors report sudden cold spots, inexplicable drafts, and the sensation of invisible hands brushing against their arms. Many have heard the unmistakable sounds of clothes rustling, tumbling, or being wrung out, despite the machines remaining silent. Some have even reported the sound of laughter or low, indistinct voices that seem to rise and fall with the rhythm of unseen work being done. It is here, as in the kitchen, that the energy of the past appears to be most concentrated, leaving a lasting impression on anyone who spends time in the space. Reports of ghostly apparitions are not confined to the kitchen and laundry room. Corridors and cell blocks throughout the prison are frequently described as places where shadowy figures move silently, disappearing as quickly as they appear. Some visitors have reported seeing men in outdated prison uniforms pacing the halls, their faces expressionless, their movements deliberate. Others have described fleeting glimpses of women, perhaps staff or visitors from decades past, appearing in reflective surfaces or peering from darkened corners. Many who encounter these figures feel a profound sense of unease, as if they are intruding on a space still occupied by the memories and emotions of those who came before. Sounds of the prison often contribute to the atmosphere of dread. Visitors and staff alike report hearing cell doors slam shut, chains dragging across floors, and the low murmur of voices even when the areas are empty. In some cases, people have claimed to hear the sobbing or pleading of inmates who passed away long ago, their pain echoing across time. Doors have been known to open or close without explanation, lights flicker, and heavy objects occasionally shift, as if moved by unseen hands. Those who have spent extended time within the prison often describe a lingering sensation of being watched, a feeling that intensifies in the evening or in isolated areas. The historical record of Luzerne County Prison helps explain why so many believe it is haunted. Built during a time when incarceration was particularly harsh, the prison housed overcrowded cells and subjected inmates to grueling labor, strict discipline, and often inadequate food and medical care. Many prisoners spent extended periods in solitary confinement, a practice that could leave lasting psychological trauma. Over the years, disease and violence claimed lives within the prison walls, sometimes leaving bodies unclaimed or hastily buried. The accumulation of these intense human experiences appears to have left an imprint on the building itself, creating the kind of residual energy that paranormal investigators often report encountering. Staff members working at the prison frequently share experiences that cannot be easily explained. Some speak of doors swinging open by themselves, lights flickering inexplicably, or sudden cold spots that appear in hallways. One longtime employee described walking past the laundry room late at night, feeling an intense presence behind him. When he turned, he glimpsed a shadowy figure standing motionless near the machines, only to vanish when he blinked. Other staff members recount hearing footsteps following them down corridors or whispering their names, moments before turning corners to find no one there. For many, these experiences are unsettling reminders that the building holds more than just historical significance. Investigators and visitors who approach the prison with recording devices have captured additional phenomena that defy conventional explanation. EVP sessions often produce faint voices, calling out or murmuring incomprehensible phrases. Thermal imaging sometimes reveals sudden cold anomalies or glowing orbs drifting through spaces long abandoned. Cameras occasionally catch fleeting shadows or distortions that vanish upon review. While skeptics might attribute these experiences to natural factors, the consistency and frequency of reports across decades suggests something more, enduring an echo of the countless lives, pains, and stories that pass through Luzerne County Prison. Despite the unsettling occurrences, many visitors find themselves drawn to the prison, curious to experience firsthand what so many have described. The atmosphere is heavy, charged with history, emotion, and the unexplained. Even those who approach with skepticism often find the air thick with tension, their senses heightened, and a subtle unease lingering long after they leave. The building itself seems to remember, preserving not only the architecture of the past, but also the echoes of those who lived, suffered, and sometimes died within its walls. In the end, Luzerne County Prison is more than just a historical site. It is a vessel of memory and energy, a place where the past refuses to remain silent. The old kitchen and laundry rooms serve as focal points for ghostly activity, but the entire structure resonates with the presence of lives constrained and stories left unfinished. From shadowy figures to unexplained sounds, from sudden chills to the persistent sensation of being watched, the prison continues to captivate and unsettle all who enter. Its stone walls, built to contain the living, now also seem to contain the echoes of the past, making Luzerne County Prison a haunting reminder that some histories never truly rest. Monroe County Prison in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, is a building that exudes an immediate sense of foreboding. Constructed in 1885, its towering stone walls and iron-barred windows were designed to project strength and authority. But over the decades, the prison has become known for something far more unsettling than its architecture. Accounts of ghostly activity, unexplained noises, and a persistent sense of being watched have surrounded the facility for generations. Visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators alike have reported experiences that suggest the prison is far from empty and that the echoes of its dark history continue to linger in the shadows. The old guard towers are among the most frequently reported areas of paranormal activity within Monroe County Prison, Perched high above the prison grounds, these towers once provided guards with a clear view of inmates and the surrounding property, allowing for constant surveillance. Today, the towers are abandoned, yet many who venture inside report an immediate feeling of unease. Footsteps echo along the narrow staircases, but when investigated, no one is there. Some have described hearing voices whispering commands, as if former guards are still performing their duties, their presence imprinted on the very walls. Others report glimpsing shadowy figures pacing near the windows, vanishing when approached. Thermal cameras often register cold spots in the towers, sudden drops in temperature that can startle even the most skeptical visitor. Many who enter describe a palpable sensation of being watched, a weighty presence that seems to follow their movements, never allowing them to feel fully at ease. The solitary confinement cells, long notorious for their role in punishing inmates, are equally haunted. These small, windowless rooms were designed to isolate prisoners for extended periods, and the psychological toll was immense. Visitors today report that the oppressive atmosphere remains, a lingering residue of the suffering endured within. The moment one steps inside, there is often an immediate drop in temperature, a sensation of heaviness that presses on the chest. Footsteps, dragging chains, and faint moans have been reported in these cells, as though the echoes of past inmates are replaying the torment of their confinement. Some claim to hear whispers calling their names, or the soft but insistent rattle of keys in the distance. Even the sound of a distant sigh can feel amplified, leaving a lingering chill that follows them through the narrow corridors. Eyewitness accounts of apparitions are not limited to these two areas. Many visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures dressed in 19th century prison garb moving silently through the hallways, vanishing when approached. Some staff have described fleeting glimpses of guards from another era, standing at attention or watching from the shadows, their expressions unreadable. Occasionally, figures are seen at the end of long corridors, pale faces staring from the darkness, only to disappear when observers move closer. The common thread in these encounters is the overwhelming sense of being observed, as if the prison itself remembers the countless lives contained within its walls and refuses to relinquish their presence. Sounds within Monroe County Prison often contribute to its reputation for haunt. Visitors and employees alike have described hearing chains dragging across floors, cell doors slamming unexpectedly, and distant footsteps echoing through corridors long after the last living person has left. Whispers, low and unintelligible, are frequently reported, sometimes rising to an almost discernible phrase before fading into silence. Doors open and close seemingly of their own accord, and lights flicker without explanation. Even objects left stationary for decades occasionally appear displaced, as if moved by unseen hands. These auditory phenomena, combined with the prison's naturally oppressive atmosphere, create an environment that is difficult to navigate without feeling a constant sense of tension. The history of Monroe County Prison provides context for why so many believe it is haunted. Over the decades, the facility housed overcrowded cells, strict disciplinary measures, and a labor system that could be grueling and dehumanizing. Many inmates endured solitary confinement for minor infractions, suffering psychological stress that could leave lasting impressions. Disease, malnutrition, and occasional violence claimed lives within the prison walls, leaving a trail of grief and unresolved trauma. Such intense human experiences are often cited by paranormal investigators as the root of residual energy and echo of pain and fear that lingers long after the individuals themselves have passed. Staff experiences further reinforce the prison's haunted reputation. Longtime employees have recounted the unsettling sensation of footsteps following them down hallways, of hearing their names called when no one is nearby, or of seeing fleeting shadows in the corner of their vision. One guard reported a chilling encounter while inspecting the old guard tower late one night. As he ascended the spiral staircase, he felt the sudden brush of a presence behind him. Turning, he saw a figure in a uniform standing silently, observing, before fading into the darkness. Other employees have described unexplained cold spots and sudden drops in temperature, moments of inexplicable dizziness, and the unshakable sensation of unseen eyes tracking their every movement. Paranormal investigations have yielded further evidence that supports these claims. Thermal imaging often reveals pockets of cold that appear and disappear without explanation, while EVP sessions frequently capture murmurs, whispers, and faint cries that cannot be attributed to any living source. Cameras occasionally detect shadowy movements or orbs of light drifting through hallways, particularly in the guard towers and solitary cells. While skeptics may attribute these occurrences to natural factors such as drafts, acoustics, or human imagination, the consistency and frequency of reports over decades suggest a more profound and enduring presence within the prison. Visitors who enter Monroe County Prison are immediately struck by the atmosphere. Even those who do not believe in ghosts often find themselves on edge, sensing an invisible weight or the subtle but unmistakable feeling of being watched. The prison is not only a historical site but a repository of human emotion, suffering, and memory, preserved within its walls. The old guard towers and solitary confinement cells serve as the focal points of its paranormal activity. Yet the entire facility resonates with echoes of the past, lingering just beneath the surface, ready to remind all who enter that history does not easily let go. Monroe County Prison remains a monument to a troubled past, a place where the lives of the incarcerated and the harsh realities of punishment continue to echo, from shadowy figures and disembodied footsteps to whispers, cold spots, and the unrelenting sense of being watched. The prison is steeped in stories that are as chilling as they are compelling. Those who explore its halls leave with more than impressions of stone and iron. They carry with them the unsettling awareness that some histories, and perhaps some spirits, never truly rest. Montgomery County Prison, located in Norristown, Pennsylvania, is a building whose very presence evokes unease. Constructed in 1884, the prison's Gothic architecture, complete with high pointed arches, imposing stone walls, and narrow iron-barred windows, was intended to convey authority and discipline. Over the decades, it has witnessed the confinement of countless inmates, many of whom endured harsh treatment, strict discipline, and long periods of isolation. It is these layers of suffering and history that have contributed to Montgomery County Prison's reputation for paranormal activity. Visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators frequently report ghostly encounters, unexplained noises, and sudden, chilling cold spots, particularly in the Old Chapel and the solitary confinement cells. The Old Chapel, a once sacred space intended for reflection and worship, is considered one of the most active areas of the prison. Its high ceilings, long wooden pews, and stained glass windows create a hauntingly beautiful atmosphere, yet many who enter describe a pervasive sense of dread. Visitors often hear the faint echo of footsteps across the stone floor, even when the chapel is empty. Some claim to hear whispers, indistinct murmurs that seem to rise and fall, like the remnants of prayers from decades past. Shadows have been observed moving along the walls, forming shapes that vanish when approached. Those who linger in the chapel sometimes report feeling a presence pressing against their shoulders or standing silently behind them, creating the sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. Paranormal investigators have documented temperature drops in the chapel, sometimes so sudden and severe that their breath becomes visible. An EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, sessions have recorded whispers that cannot be attributed to anyone alive. The solitary confinement cells, infamous for their role in punishing inmates, are another hotspot for paranormal activity. Small, windowless, and stark, these rooms were designed to isolate prisoners for extended periods. Today, they retain the oppressive atmosphere of their original purpose. Visitors often report a sudden heaviness upon entering, as if the walls themselves carry the emotional weight of decades of suffering. Sounds of chains dragging, distant moans, and the faint creak of cell doors slamming have been consistently reported. Some have described hearing whispers calling their names or the sound of keys jingling in empty hallways. The intensity of the sensations in these cells is often overwhelming, creating a chilling reminder of the isolation and psychological torment once endured by the prisoners. Accounts of apparitions are not limited to the chapel and solitary cells. Shadowy figures in old-fashioned prison uniforms are frequently seen wandering hallways, vanishing when approached. Some visitors have reported glimpsing figures seated silently in empty cells or pacing corridors. Their movements deliberate but ghostly. Staff members have occasionally described fleeting figures standing at the end of hallways or near doorways, disappearing when they are directly observed. The common thread in these encounters is the pervasive sensation of being watched, a feeling that seems to follow visitors throughout the prison, intensifying in areas associated with suffering and punishment. Unexplained sounds contribute heavily to the prison's haunted reputation. Staff and visitors alike have reported cell doors slamming without cause, footsteps echoing across empty corridors, and distant, low murmurs that rise into whispers and then fade. Objects are occasionally found displaced, doors open or closed without explanation, and lights flicker in patterns that seem almost deliberate. Many describe sudden, intense cold spots, sometimes concentrated in one corner of a room, as if unseen forces are pressing against the physical environment. These phenomena are often most pronounced in the chapel and solitary cells, but they have been reported throughout the prison, lending credibility to the idea that the building is imbued with a lingering energy. The history of Montgomery County Prison helps explain the intensity of these reports. During its early years, inmates endured strict discipline, grueling labor, and overcrowded cells. Many spent long periods in solitary confinement, leaving psychological scars that may contribute to the residual energy felt today. Disease, violence, and death were not uncommon, and the prison holds records of inmates who died within its walls, some of whom were buried hastily or unceremoniously. Such experiences of intense suffering, grief, and fear are often cited by paranormal investigators as a source of lingering energy, echoing through time and space to interact with those who enter the building. Staff members with long tenures at Montgomery County Prison frequently recount experiences that defy explanation. Some describe hearing footsteps following them through empty corridors, voices whispering their names, or shadowy figures appearing and disappearing in their peripheral vision. One guard recounted inspecting the solitary confinement cells late one night when he felt a sudden cold brush across his neck and sensed a presence behind him. Turning, he caught a fleeting glimpse of a figure standing silently in the corner, only for it to vanish moments later. Others have reported lights flickering in empty rooms, doors closing without cause, and an overwhelming feeling of unease that lingers long after leaving certain areas. Paranormal investigators have documented additional anomalies using thermal imaging, EVP recordings, and video equipment. Cold spots frequently appear on thermal cameras, while audio sessions capture whispers, moans, and unexplained sounds that cannot be attributed to human activity. Video footage occasionally shows orbs of light or shadowy shapes moving in hallways and rooms, particularly in the chapel and solitary cells. While skeptics might argue these phenomena can be explained by drafts, acoustics, or equipment error, the sheer consistency and repetition of reports suggest a presence beyond natural explanation. Visitors who enter Montgomery County Prison often leave with a heightened sense of awareness, a feeling that the building itself is alive with echoes of the past. Even those who do not believe in ghosts frequently report an unsettling sensation of being observed. The prison is more than a historical site. It is a repository of memory, suffering, and perhaps unresolved spirits. The chapel and solitary confinement cells serve as focal points for this energy. Yet the influence extends throughout the facility, creating a pervasive atmosphere that is difficult to ignore. Montgomery County Prison stands as a monument to its dark past, a Gothic edifice where architecture and history converge with the paranormal. From shadowy figures to unexplained sounds, from sudden chills to the unshakable feeling of being watched, the prison continues to captivate and unsettle all who enter. It is a place where the stories of the incarcerated, the suffering endured, and the lingering energy of the past remain tangible, serving as a chilling reminder that some histories, and perhaps some spirits, never truly rest. Northampton County Prison, located in Eastern Pennsylvania, stands as a testament to 19th century design and the darker realities of incarceration. Opened in 1861, its brick and stone architecture exudes a sense of authority and permanence. But behind its walls lies a history of suffering, isolation, and human despair. Over the decades, the prison has housed countless inmates, many of whom endured harsh conditions, strict discipline, and long periods of confinement. It is this intense human history that has led to numerous reports of ghostly activity, unexplained sounds, and sudden cold spots, particularly in the old kitchen and the laundry room. Visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators alike have recounted experiences that suggest the prison is far from empty. The old kitchen is widely regarded as one of the prison's most active areas. Though it no longer serves its original purpose, the space is filled with the remnants of its past trusted sinks, cracked tiles, and shelves that once held heavy pots and utensils. People who enter the kitchen often describe an immediate chill, as if the air itself has absorbed decades of fear and suffering. Some have reported hearing the clang of pots and pans being dropped, the scrape of metal across the floor, or footsteps echoing in patterns that suggest multiple people are moving about. Shadowy figures have been glimpsed in the corners of the room, vanishing when approached, leaving a lingering sense of being watched. Paranormal investigators have documented sudden temperature drops in the kitchen. In EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, recordings frequently capture indistinct whispers and murmurs that cannot be attributed to anyone present. The cumulative effect is an environment that feels alive with memories of the past, a place where the energy of former inmates and staff seems to linger long after their presence has faded. The laundry room, similarly, is steeped in unsettling energy. Rows of old washers and dryers, long since retired from use, line the walls, their hulking metal forms silent but seemingly charged with history. Visitors report sudden cold spots, inexplicable drafts, and the sensation of invisible fingers brushing against their arms. Many have heard the unmistakable sound of fabric rustling, clothes tumbling, or water being wrung out, even though all machines remain still. Occasionally, laughter, murmurs, or faint cries are heard, echoing across the room in patterns that are impossible to attribute to any living person. The room carries a palpable tension, as if the physical space itself has absorbed the countless hours of labor, struggle, and confinement that once defined it. Reports of ghostly figures extend beyond the kitchen and laundry room. Visitors have seen shadows pacing the corridors, figures in outdated uniforms disappearing when approached, and reflections of individuals who are not present. Many staff members have described fleeting glimpses of prisoners in the hallways, sometimes standing silently in cells or near doors, their faces expressionless, their presence unmistakable. The common thread among these encounters is the overwhelming sensation of being observed, a feeling that can follow visitors through the prison's winding corridors and narrow staircases. Unexplained sounds are a hallmark of Northampton County Prison. Staff and visitors frequently report hearing cell doors slamming, chains dragging across the floors, and footsteps echoing from empty hallways. Whispers, low and indistinct, are often heard rising into the air before fading, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. Doors open or close on their own, lights flicker without explanation, and objects occasionally shift from their original positions. These auditory phenomena, combined with the oppressive atmosphere of the prison, create an environment that is difficult to navigate without a heightened sense of awareness and tension. The history of the prison provides context for its haunted reputation. Over the years, Northampton County Prison was known for overcrowded cells, strict discipline, and labor-intensive routines for inmates. Many prisoners spent long periods in solitary confinement, a practice that often left lasting psychological scars. Illness, malnutrition, and occasional violence were not uncommon, and the prison records indicate that several inmates died within the walls, some unclaimed or hastily buried. Paranormal investigators often point to these intense experiences as the source of lingering energy, suggesting that the emotional and physical suffering of past inmates left an imprint that can still be felt. Staff members have shared numerous first-hand accounts of unexplained phenomena, Some report footsteps following them down corridors, voices whispering their names, or fleeting shadows in their peripheral vision. One long-term employee described entering the old kitchen late one night, only to feel a sudden cold pressure against his back. Turning quickly, he glimpsed a shadowy figure near the sinks, which disappeared as soon as he moved toward it. Others have recounted hearing keys jingling, doors opening, or lights flickering without any logical explanation. These experiences contribute to the building's reputation as a place where the past remains vividly present. Paranormal investigators have documented additional anomalies using thermal imaging, audio recordings, and video equipment. Cold spots appear suddenly in areas like the kitchen and laundry room, often concentrated in specific corners. AVP sessions capture faint voices, murmurs, and cries that cannot be attributed to any living person. Cameras sometimes record orbs of light or shadowy shapes moving through the hallways. While skeptics may argue that drafts, echoes, or faulty equipment explain these events, the consistency and frequency of reports suggest a presence that cannot be easily dismissed. Visitors to Northampton County Prison frequently remark on the heavy, oppressive atmosphere. Even those who do not believe in ghosts often feel a subtle but unmistakable unease. The prison is more than a historical site. It is a repository of memory, suffering, and unresolved energy. The old kitchen and laundry room serve as focal points for this paranormal activity, but the sense of the past is pervasive, lingering in every hallway, cell, and corner. Those who spend time inside often leave with a heightened awareness that the prison is not entirely empty, that the stories of its inmates, their struggles, and their suffering continue to echo across time. Northampton County Prison remains a chilling reminder of the past, a place where history and the supernatural intersect. From shadowy figures and unexplained noises to sudden cold spots and the constant sensation of being watched, the prison continues to capture the imagination and fear of those who enter. Its walls hold the memories of lives confined, struggles endured, and stories that refuse to fade, ensuring that the echoes of the past are never truly silent. Northumberland County Prison, located in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, is a building that immediately commands attention and respect. Constructed in 1869, its heavy stone walls, narrow iron-barred windows, and austere design were built to contain those who had transgressed the law, projecting an aura of authority and permanence. Over the decades, the prison has witnessed countless lives confined within its walls, some of which ended in tragedy, suffering, or despair. Today, Northumberland County Prison is known not only for its historical significance, but also for its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the region. Reports of ghostly apparitions, unexplained sounds, sudden cold spots, and an overwhelming sense of being watched are common, particularly in the old guard towers and the solitary confinement cells. The old guard towers are among the most frequently reported locations for paranormal activity. Perched high above the prison grounds, these towers once offered guards a commanding view of the property and the inmates, ensuring constant surveillance. Today, they stand largely abandoned, but many who enter report an immediate and intense feeling of unease. Footsteps echo along the narrow spiral staircases, yet no one is present to produce them. Some visitors have reported hearing whispers of commands, as if former guards continue to patrol the towers in spirit. Shadowy figures are sometimes glimpsed near the windows or along the edges of the towers, disappearing when approached, leaving only the sense that someone or something is observing. Thermal imaging frequently reveals sudden cold spots in these towers, sudden drops in temperature that can be startling even for the most experienced investigators. The sensation of being watched is pervasive, intensifying the moment one enters the tower, creating a palpable tension that lingers long after leaving. The solitary confinement cells are another area notorious for paranormal activity. These small, windowless rooms were designed to isolate inmates for long periods, a practice that left many prisoners mentally scarred. Visitors today report a heavy, almost suffocating atmosphere as soon as they step inside, as if the walls themselves retain the pain and suffering endured within. Many have heard the scrape of chains across the floor or the distant slamming of cell doors, echoing in patterns that suggest the presence of multiple unseen individuals. Others describe low, unintelligible whispers or muffled cries, sounds that seem to originate from nowhere, yet fill the space with a sense of despair. The cell's oppressive energy is often so intense that some visitors describe feeling physically pressed down, a weight that seems to settle across their shoulders and chest. Apparitions are commonly reported throughout the prison. Shadowy figures, often dressed in outdated uniforms, are seen pacing corridors or standing silently in cells before disappearing when approached. Some visitors report glimpsing pale faces, staring from darkened corners, or reflections that reveal people who are not present. Staff members have occasionally described fleeting images of guards or inmates from another era, their movements deliberate and silent, yet undeniably human. The sense of being observed is a recurring theme in these accounts, leaving an impression that the prison is not only aware of its occupants, but actively interacting with them from beyond the physical world. Unexplained sounds are a hallmark of Northumberland County Prison. Visitors and employees alike report hearing footsteps echoing through empty hallways, chains dragging across floors, and cell doors slamming unexpectedly. Whispers rise and fall, sometimes almost forming words, before fading into silence. Objects occasionally shift without explanation, lights flicker erratically, and doors open or close on their own. These phenomena are particularly common in the guard towers and solitary cells, but they have been noted throughout the prison. The combination of auditory and physical sensations creates an environment that is unnerving, making even seasoned visitors tread carefully through the hallways. The history of the prison provides context for the intensity of these reports. Northumberland County Prison has long been associated with harsh treatment, overcrowding, and strict discipline. Many inmates were subjected to grueling labor, endured long periods in solitary confinement, and suffered from inadequate food and medical care. Disease, malnutrition, and occasional violence claimed lives within the prison, and some prisoners died without proper recognition or ceremony. Paranormal investigators often suggest that the intense emotions and trauma experienced here have left a residual energy, an imprint that can still be perceived by the living. The physical structure itself, with its heavy stone walls and narrow passages, seems to trap and amplify these echoes of the past. Staff members frequently recount experiences that defy logical explanation. Some describe footsteps following them down empty corridors, voices calling their names when no one is nearby, or fleeting shadows in their peripheral vision. One guard recounted ascending the spiral staircase of an old guard tower late one night when he felt a cold breath on the back of his neck and the unmistakable impression of someone standing behind him. Turning quickly, he saw a dark figure at the top of the staircase before it dissolved into the darkness. Other staff have reported sudden cold spots, flickering lights, and a sense of being observed that does not fade even after leaving the area. These experiences reinforce the prison's reputation as a place where the past is never truly at rest. Paranormal investigations of Northumberland County Prison have yielded numerous anomalies. Thermal cameras frequently detect sudden cold spots in the towers and cells. EVP recordings often capture whispers, low murmurs, or faint cries that cannot be attributed to any living person. Cameras occasionally record orbs of light or shadowy forms drifting along hallways or standing near cell doors. While skeptics may argue these occurrences are caused by drafts, echoes, or technical error, the consistency of reports over decades suggests a persistent and unexplained presence. Visitors to the prison often describe an atmosphere that is thick with tension, a sense of history and human emotion that feels almost tangible. Even those who do not believe in ghosts frequently report an unease that follows them through corridors and rooms. The old guard towers and solitary confinement cells remain the epicenters of this activity. Yet the influence of the prison's past permeates the entire building. The combination of architecture, history, and residual energy makes Northumberland County Prison an unforgettable and unsettling experience. Northumberland County Prison stands as a monument to a difficult and often tragic past, a Gothic structure where history and the paranormal converge. From shadowy figures and unexplained sounds to sudden cold spots and the persistent feeling of being watched, the prison continues to capture the attention and curiosity of those who enter. Its walls, built to contain the living, now seem to hold the echoes of lives once constrained, serving as a chilling reminder that some histories and some spirits never truly rest. Perry County Prison in New Bloomfield, Pennsylvania, is a structure that commands attention the moment one approaches. Built in 1865, its Gothic architecture, characterized by heavy stone walls, arched windows, and iron-barred doors, was intended to convey authority and impose order. Over the decades, the prison has been home to countless inmates, many of whom endured harsh conditions, strict discipline, and long periods of isolation. Today, the building is as notorious for its dark history as it is for its paranormal activity. Visitors and staff alike report ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and a persistent feeling of being watched, making Perry County Prison a location where the past seems to linger just beyond the veil of the present. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the sound of chains dragging across the floors. Many visitors describe entering the hallways and suddenly hearing the unmistakable clinking of metal, as though prisoners are still moving about or performing chores. The sound often comes from empty cells or corridors, echoing in patterns that make it seem as if multiple individuals are walking, yet no one is present. Staff have reported similar experiences during routine checks, hearing chains and footsteps in areas that have been long abandoned. These sounds are frequently accompanied by the slam of cell doors, sudden and forceful, reverberating through the halls. The combination of clanging metal and slamming doors creates an atmosphere of unease that can be felt throughout the prison. The solitary confinement cells are particularly notorious for paranormal activity. These small, windowless rooms were designed to isolate inmates for days or even weeks at a time. Visitors report a heavy, oppressive atmosphere the moment they enter, as if the air itself has absorbed decades of fear, anxiety, and suffering. Many have heard muffled cries, whispers, or the faint echo of footsteps inside these rooms, even when no one else is present. The weight of the environment is often so intense that some people describe feeling physically pressed down, as though the walls themselves are pushing against them. The cell's design, intended to contain and punish, seems to amplify the emotional residue left by former prisoners, making it a hotspot for paranormal encounters. Reports of ghostly apparitions are common throughout the prison. Shadowy figures in old prison uniforms have been seen pacing corridors, standing silently in cells, or observing from darkened corners. Some visitors describe seeing pale faces staring from windows or along hallways before vanishing when approached. Staff members have occasionally reported encountering guards from another era, appearing in their original attire, patrolling hallways, or standing watch in empty rooms. The recurring sense of being observed is a theme in nearly every account, creating an unsettling feeling that the prison is not simply a historical site, but a place where the memories and presences of the past remain active. Auditory phenomena extend beyond chains and footsteps. Visitors and staff have reported hearing distant voices, low murmurs, and whispers that seem to emanate from nowhere. Doors open and close without explanation, lights flicker erratically, and objects occasionally shift from their original positions. These unexplained occurrences are most commonly reported in the hallways and solitary cells, but they can happen anywhere within the prison. The combination of these sounds, the oppressive architecture, and the knowledge of the building's dark past creates a palpable tension that is difficult to ignore. The history of Perry County Prison provides insight into why so many paranormal experiences have been reported. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, the prison was overcrowded, and inmates often endured harsh labor, strict discipline, and limited resources. Long periods of solitary confinement and insufficient medical care caused immense suffering, while disease and occasional violence claimed lives within the walls. Several prisoners died under tragic circumstances, some unclaimed or buried hastily. The cumulative effect of these experiences is believed to leave residual energy echoing through time and interacting with those who enter the building today. Staff accounts frequently reinforce the prison's haunted reputation. Many describe hearing footsteps following them through empty hallways, voices calling their names, or shadows flitting past in their peripheral vision. One guard recounted an evening spent inspecting the solitary cells when he felt a cold presence behind him. Turning quickly, he glimpsed a dark figure standing silently in the corner before it dissolved into the darkness. Others report lights flickering on and off, without explanation, doors opening or closing on their own, and sudden drops in temperature that appear concentrated in specific areas. These experiences contribute to the building's reputation as a place where the past refuses to remain silent. Paranormal investigations at Perry County Prison have documented a variety of unusual phenomena. Thermal cameras often reveal sudden cold spots, particularly in the solitary cells and long corridors. EVP recordings capture low murmurs, whispers, and faint cries that cannot be attributed to anyone alive. Cameras occasionally record shadowy shapes or orbs of light moving along hallways or inside cells. While skeptics may attribute some of these occurrences to acoustics, drafts, or equipment anomalies, the sheer consistency of reports over decades suggests a presence beyond the physical. Visitors to Perry County Prison consistently describe an atmosphere thick with tension and a sense of history that is almost tangible. Even those who do not believe in ghosts often feel a subtle but unmistakable unease, as if unseen eyes are observing their every move. The solitary confinement cells and long hallways, in particular, carry the most intense energy, but the sensation of the past pervades the entire building. It is not merely a historical site. It is a repository of human suffering, fear, and lingering energy. Perry County Prison stands as a stark reminder of the harsh realities of its era, a Gothic structure where architecture, history, and the paranormal converge. From the dragging of chains and slamming of cell doors to shadowy figures and sudden cold spots, the prison continues to fascinate and unsettle those who enter. Its walls, built to contain the living, now seem to contain echoes of the past, preserving the memories, struggles, and perhaps spirits of those who once lived and suffered within. In Perry County Prison, history is never quiet, and the presence of the past is felt in every corridor, cell, and shadow. York County Prison in York, Pennsylvania, is a building that commands attention even before stepping through its heavy doors. Constructed in 1873, the prison's imposing stone walls, iron-barred windows, and austere Gothic design were built to reflect authority and maintain strict control over its inmates. Over the decades, the facility has housed countless prisoners, many of whom endured harsh punishments, long periods of isolation, and an environment steeped in fear and discipline. Today, the prison is renowned not just for its historical significance, but also for its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in Pennsylvania. Reports of anguished screams, the clanging of unseen chains, sudden chilling cold spots, and shadowy figures make York County Prison a location where the echoes of the past feel startlingly present. The solitary confinement cells are among the most active areas of the prison. These small, windowless rooms were designed to isolate inmates for days, weeks, or even months at a time. Visitors report an immediate feeling of heaviness and unease the moment they enter. Some describe a palpable pressure pressing on their chest, a sensation that seems to weigh down both body and mind. Footsteps are often heard echoing across the narrow halls, despite the absence of any other person. The faint clanging of chains, dragging across floors that have long been abandoned, is frequently reported. Whispers, low and indistinct, sometimes rise into near discernible phrases, as if the tortured souls of past inmates are attempting to communicate. These rooms are thick with the emotional residue of suffering, making them a hotspot for paranormal activity. The old execution chamber carries a unique and chilling presence. This room, once the site of state-sanctioned death, is steeped in tragedy and anguish. Visitors frequently describe an overwhelming sensation of dread when entering, as if the air itself holds the memory of past events. Some have reported hearing anguished screams that echo from the empty chamber, cries that seem to originate from nowhere, yet fill the space with raw emotion. Shadows are often seen flitting across the walls, moving deliberately yet disappearing the moment they are approached. It is as if the spirits of those who met their end within the chamber are replaying their final moments. Trapped in a loop of fear, regret, and unresolved energy, paranormal investigators often note that the intensity of activity in this room is greater than anywhere else in the facility, with temperature drops, unexplained noises, and visual anomalies occurring with unnerving frequency. Beyond these central areas, shadowy figures are often observed throughout the prison. Visitors report glimpsing prisoners in period clothing, moving silently along corridors, pacing cell blocks, or standing in corners, only to vanish when approached. Staff have described fleeting images of guards or inmates appearing in peripheral vision, sometimes watching silently before disappearing into the darkness. The common thread in these encounters is the overwhelming sense of being observed. Many who enter York County Prison describe an intangible pressure, the sensation that unseen eyes are tracking their every movement, a feeling that persists long after leaving the building. Auditory phenomena are particularly unsettling at York County Prison. In addition to anguished screams and chains dragging, cell doors are known to slam without explanation, often accompanied by a chilling breeze. Faint murmurs and whispers rise unpredictably, sometimes forming almost coherent words before fading into silence. Objects occasionally move or shift inexplicably. Lights flicker in patterns that seem deliberate, and sudden cold spots appear in localized areas. These experiences are reported most often in the solitary cells and execution chamber, but the residual energy seems to permeate the entire facility, creating an atmosphere of unease even in the less active areas. The dark history of York County Prison provides context for these paranormal occurrences. Inmates were subjected to harsh punishments, long periods of isolation, and often brutal living conditions. Disease, malnutrition, and violence claimed the lives of many prisoners, and some deaths occurred under tragic or unrecorded circumstances. The execution chamber, in particular, witnessed the end of numerous lives, leaving an indelible mark on the building itself. Paranormal investigators often suggest that the intensity of these emotional experiences, fear, anguish, and unresolved trauma, has left an imprint on the prison, a residue that continues to affect those who enter decades later. Staff accounts reinforce the prison's haunted reputation. Many have described footsteps echoing behind them in empty hallways, voices calling their names, or shadows moving just beyond sight. One long-term employee recounted being in the solitary confinement block late at night when he felt an icy hand brush against his shoulder, though no one else was present. Others report doors opening or closing without explanation, lights flickering, and cold spots that seem to move and shift unpredictably. These encounters are often unnerving enough to leave even experienced personnel shaken, further adding to the prison's aura of supernatural activity. Paranormal investigations have captured additional evidence of the unexplained. Thermal imaging often reveals cold spots concentrated in the execution chamber and solitary cells. AVP sessions frequently record low murmurs, anguished cries, and whispers that cannot be attributed to any living person. Cameras sometimes capture shadowy forms or orbs drifting through corridors or appearing near cell doors. While skeptics might suggest drafts, faulty equipment, or psychological suggestion as explanations, the sheer consistency and repetition of reports over decades point to an enduring, inexplicable presence within the prison. Visitors who enter York County Prison often remark on the oppressive atmosphere that hangs in every hallway and cell block. Even those skeptical of the paranormal report a sense of unease, the subtle but unmistakable impression of being watched. The solitary confinement cells and execution chamber are the focal points of activity. Yet the entire facility resonates with the emotional weight of its history. Every corridor, shadowed corner, and echoing stairwell seems to carry the memories of pain, fear, and finality that occurred within its walls. York County Prison stands as a chilling reminder of a past defined by strict discipline, human suffering, and the finality of justice. From anguished screams and the clanging of unseen chains to shadowy figures and sudden chills, the prison continues to captivate, unsettle, and terrify those who enter. Its stone walls, designed to contain the living, now hold the echoes of the past, preserving the pain, fear, and lingering spirits of those who once walked its halls. In York County Prison, history is never silent, and the presence of the past is felt in every shadow, sound, and cold spot. Franklin County Jail, located in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, is a structure steeped in history, mystery, and an unsettling reputation. Built in 1860, the jail's formidable stone walls, narrow iron-barred windows, and austere architecture were designed to maintain control over its inmates and project authority to the surrounding community. Over the decades, it has witnessed the lives of countless prisoners, many of whom endured harsh conditions, strict discipline, and the isolating terror of confinement. Today, Franklin County Jail is known not only for its historical significance, but also for its reputation as one of Pennsylvania's most haunted penitentiaries. Visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators have reported ghostly whispers, sudden cold spots, unexplained footsteps, and fleeting apparitions, particularly in the old cell blocks and guard towers, making the building a nexus of paranormal activity and human suffering. The old cell blocks are among the most active and unsettling areas of the jail. These long, narrow corridors once housed prisoners under strict confinement, and their architecture rows of small, iron-barred cells lining cold, stone walls amplifies both sound and sensation. Visitors often describe an immediate sense of heaviness upon entering, as if the air itself is thick with the accumulated fear and anguish of past inmates. Footsteps echo down the halls, sometimes from multiple directions at once. Yet, when investigated, no one is present. The faint clanging of cell doors is a common phenomenon, occurring without any mechanical cause, and the sound often seems to travel unnaturally, bouncing off the stone walls in patterns that defy logic. Low murmurs and indistinct whispers are frequently reported, rising and fading as if unseen voices are attempting to communicate. The cell blocks carry a palpable energy, a mixture of fear, despair, and unresolved emotion that has lingered for decades. The guard towers, once essential for overseeing prisoners, are also notorious for paranormal activity. Elevated above the jail, these towers provided a commanding view of the property, allowing guards to monitor every movement within the prison walls. Today, visitors and investigators report sudden chills that seem to follow them as they climb the narrow staircases, often accompanied by the sensation of being observed. Footsteps echo unnaturally along the spiral stairs, and the faint sound of keys jingling is frequently reported despite the absence of anyone nearby. Shadowy figures have been seen moving near the windows or standing silently at the top of the stairs, vanishing when approached. Some describe feeling an invisible presence pressing closely, as if the spirits of long-deceased guards or prisoners are silently keeping watch. Thermal imaging and EVP recordings often detect anomalies concentrated in these towers, reinforcing their reputation as epicenters of paranormal activity within the jail. Apparitions are among the most unsettling phenomena reported at Franklin County Jail. Shadowy figures, often resembling prisoners from the 19th century, have been seen pacing corridors, sitting silently in cells, or standing in corners before disappearing when approached. Some visitors report fleeting glimpses of faces peering through the iron bars, pale and expressionless, vanishing as soon as attention is focused on them. Staff have occasionally described seeing guards from another era, moving deliberately along corridors as if performing their duties, only to vanish moments later. The recurring sensation of being watched is a common thread in these encounters, creating an oppressive and eerie atmosphere that lingers long after leaving the jail. Auditory anomalies contribute heavily to Franklin County Jail's haunted reputation. Beyond footsteps and whispers, visitors and staff report sudden cell doors slamming without explanation, low groans rising from empty corridors, and chains dragging across floors. Doors open or close on their own. Lights flicker inexplicably, and objects occasionally shift from their original positions. These phenomena are most frequently reported in the old cell blocks and guard towers, but residual energy seems to extend throughout the entire facility. The combination of sound, temperature changes, and unsettling movement creates an environment that is tense, difficult to navigate, and deeply unnerving. The jail's history provides context for its intense paranormal activity. During its early years, Franklin County Jail was known for strict discipline, overcrowded cells, and grueling labor for inmates. Long periods of isolation, inadequate nutrition, and minimal medical care resulted in suffering and, in some cases, death. Violence, disease, and despair were frequent, and many inmates left permanent psychological scars on the facility's environment. Paranormal investigators often suggest that such extreme experiences fear, anxiety, pain, and unresolved emotion leave residual energy that can interact with the living long after the original events occurred. The jail's physical structure, with its heavy stone walls, narrow passages, and confined spaces, seems particularly adept at containing and amplifying this energy. Staff accounts often mirror those of visitors. Many have described footsteps following them through empty hallways, voices calling their names when no one else is present, or shadowy figures glimpsed in the corner of their vision. One long-term guard recounted entering the old cell blocks late at night and feeling a cold presence brush against his shoulder. When he turned, he saw a dark figure standing silently in a cell, which disappeared moments later. Others report lights flickering erratically, doors closing on their own, and sudden localized cold spots that leave them shivering despite the surrounding air temperature. Such experiences reinforce the jail's reputation as a place where the past is never truly at rest. Paranormal investigations at Franklin County Jail have produced additional evidence of the unexplained. Thermal cameras frequently detect sudden cold spots, particularly in the guard towers and cell blocks. AVP recordings capture whispers, low groans, and faint cries that cannot be attributed to any living person. Video cameras occasionally record shadowy shapes or orbs drifting through corridors or appearing inside cells. While skeptics may attribute these occurrences to drafts, equipment error, or acoustic phenomena, the consistency of reports across decades suggests the presence of lingering energy or entities. Visitors often describe an atmosphere that is both heavy and unsettling. Even those skeptical of the paranormal report a subtle, pervasive unease, a sense of unseen eyes observing every move. The old cell blocks and guard towers are the focal points of this energy, yet the emotional residue seems to saturate the entire facility. Each corridor, shadowed corner, and echoing stairwell carries the weight of human suffering, despair, and the unresolved energy of past inmates. Franklin County Jail is more than a historical building. It is a repository of memory and emotion, a place where the past continues to interact with the present. Franklin County Jail stands as a stark reminder of the darker aspects of incarceration, a Gothic structure where history and the paranormal converge. From ghostly whispers and unexplained footsteps to fleeting apparitions and sudden chills, the jail continues to capture the attention and fear of those who enter. Its walls, built to contain the living, now seem to hold echoes of the past, preserving the anguish, fear, and lingering spirits of those who once walked its halls. In Franklin County Jail, the history of human suffering is never silent, and the presence of the past is felt in every shadow and sound. As we close the heavy iron gates and step back into the world outside these haunted halls, remember, the echoes of the past are never truly gone. Pennsylvania's prisons stand as silent witnesses to lives marked by suffering, fear, and sometimes injustice. Whether skeptic or believer, one thing is certain: these walls have stories to tell, and their whispers linger in the shadows for those willing to listen. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey through the 25 most haunted prisons in Pennsylvania. If you enjoyed this exploration of history and the paranormal, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another spine-tingling tale from Whispers Beyond the Bars. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe keep a flashlight handy.